How's it going, everybody, and welcome back to another video. So today we will be doing a bit more bossing to try and make up some of the money that we spent in the last episode, where we spent almost 1.4 billion GP on the Greater Ricochet ability. Now don't get me wrong, Greater Ricochet is one hell of an ability, but I suppose that's why it's so much money in the first place. I'm still unsure whether it's worth 1.4 billion, but it should help bossing going forward from now on. We also just want to try and get better at this whole PVM thing as a whole, as some fights I'm finding I'm getting more confident in them and I am able to sort of get my kill times down, where at others I am finding that I'm just doing worse than I kind of was before. Maybe it just kind of comes down to how I'm feeling on the day, but sometimes I just feel like I'm doing much worse than I kind of was at the start. So today we are going to be doing some Nex, we are going to be doing some Raksha, and we are going to be doing some ED3. So if this is the kind of content that you do enjoy, then please do like the video. Do leave a comment down below on any tips or feedback that you guys might have. And if you are new, then please do subscribe. So before this intro sort of turns into one big rambling mess, let's get into the video. Alright, so let's start with Nex. Now I know I keep saying on this series that I'm going to do less Nex because I don't know whether or not people are getting bored of it. I have had people say that they aren't, so I'll probably keep doing it anyway. But honestly, I think Nex has just kind of become a bit of a staple for this whole series. It's a boss that I can now solo that I guess is relatively end game or high end PVM, I guess. And not only is it great money, but it's one of the bosses that I can actually see any sort of progress that I make on the kills. Whether that means just shaving a few seconds off the kill times, or whether or not the kill just feels better in general, I can just personally feel when I make an actual improvement. So I've not actually had a lot of time this week to even play and do a lot of PVM, so I think I've only done about 3 hours of Nex this week. But these 3 hours have actually been really profitable. In the first hour I got 7 Onyx Bolt drops, which came to something like 21 mil, and all the other drops in that hour were Sour Brews, which are like 600k drops every time. I genuinely think it's the first hour that I've not had any Stone Spirits. But yeah, it was a really good hour, considering I didn't get any broadcasts. Now the next 2 hours I did in one night, and honestly the first 50 minutes or so went completely smoothly, no deaths, nothing, it just all went perfectly. And then I really don't know what happened, I think I died like 3 times in a row. I guess I just started to get a little bit unfocused, and I don't know, it just kind of started to go a bit wrong. The second hour felt like an absolute slog. And honestly, looking back, I probably should have stopped for the night, as I was clearly not in the right frame of mind to be doing it anymore. But I did end up powering through that last hour, and honestly, I'm kinda glad I did, because we got not just 1, not 2, but 3 broadcasts from Nex. We ended up getting 2 sets of Pernix boots, which were already on the log, so we're now at 3 on the log for those. And then we ended up getting some Torva gloves, which are new to the log. And honestly, I will take absolutely any pieces of Torva. They are worth so much money right now. So if I was to add up all the extra bolts and the Sour Brews and stuff that we got in the second and third hours, we probably made about 75 to 80 mil in these 3 hours. Nex is just such good money, and like I said, as it's something that I can solo, I think it's just going to be a staple of this series. So as some of you may have noticed, I have been trying to use vulnerability bombs at Nex as well. This is the first time that I've ever tried to use them, and I don't know, they're a little bit finicky to use, but as you can see, I am trying my best to try and actually learn how to PVM with extra things like this. Some people make this whole thing look super easy, and I don't know, I am struggling with certain things. And for those of you that are a little bit more perceptive, you guys might have noticed the next upgrade that I did buy on the account. I ended up getting myself Appraisal Codex, which I think cost me about 686 mil, and we used that to unlock the Desolation Curse. So over the past 2 episodes we have now spent almost max cash on 2 upgrades that I cannot sell back, which, I mean, I'm not gonna lie, feels kinda bad, but these are upgrades that are gonna be on the count for good, and I think in the long run they'll probably pay themselves off. Alright, let's move on to Raksha. So I actually really like Raksha as a fight. But the problem is I don't actually really do the fight properly, I guess, as I just kind of go as a DPS and I don't really deal with any of the mechanics. It's really just the mechanics that are sort of necessary, like the 2 orbs that you have to press, and just sort of the mechanics that are sort of like that, really. I've never really learnt how to do the pulls, as usually my partner is in it yet and he just kind of deals with them straight away. I usually see everyone doing the whole switching thing into bladed dive, but I'm not sure if there's an actual different way to deal with that mechanic or not. And I'm not talking about like being efficient like with the bladed dive, I'm just curious if there's an actual like other way to deal with those pulls or not. I just know if I ever wanted to actually sort of attempt a solo at rynetchii, then I would need a different way to deal with those pulls, because I definitely cannot do the switch into bladed dive. For anyone that's actually followed my progress will know that I have attempted very few switches, and I think right now trying to switch and bladed dive in this fight is just a few too many miles away from me. So if there is actually another way to deal with those pulls, then do let me know, because I would actually kind of like to try and attempt a solo without having to think that that's the only way to do it. Now, the other problem that I have in this fight is the prayer switching, and honestly this one's a little bit weird for me. I literally can't tell if it's me not being very good at it or if it's the latency of the servers. Now, I would genuinely put my prayer switching down into sort of 3 equal parts. So first, I am pretty sure that I do the prayer switch in time and yet it still doesn't like register, I guess, and I take the hit anyway. Secondly is 100% my fault, and I know I haven't pressed it in time, and you know, that is just genuinely me not being very good at the game. And then the rest of the time it works 100% as I pressed it, you know, exactly how you would just expect the game to work. I genuinely don't know if anyone else ever has issues with the prayer switching in this fight, or if it's just me thinking that I have sort of better reaction times than I actually do. But I also know that I really need to stop accidentally turning my prayer off. Now, I know sometimes I'll be brave and I'll turn my prayer off and use resonance and, you know, get a good heal from that. But sometimes what I do is, let's say for instance I'm praying mage and I see a mage hit coming, I'll press mage prayer just because I see a mage hit coming. And because I'm already praying mage, it obviously just turns it off. I do usually try to put it back on in time, but it doesn't always work, and I'll usually just get hit pretty hard for it. It's things like that that I see why my supplies go down so much in this fight. It is actually kind of annoying looking back at the footage, because I know exactly what I'm doing wrong, and I know it at the time as well, but I just cannot seem to do it right at the time when I'm doing the fight. I think when it comes down to it, I just need to do rynetchii a little bit more often, as usually what happens is I'll do it for like an hour or two on one night, and then I just don't touch it for, you know, like a week or two. So I kind of just feel like I lose all the practice that I've done sort of beforehand. But you know, it is what it is. I just need to practice more, and honestly I really don't mind doing this fight as much because it's really good money even without getting a drop. It seems sort of on average per kill I'm getting about 1 mil drops most of the time. And honestly, all of the broadcasted drops here are pretty good money, especially that greater ricochet. You know, that is the big drop that everybody wants from here. Alright, let's move on to ED3. Alright, so I've not been to ED3 for honestly what feels like absolute months. But we actually ended up going as a trio, as I was just kind of asked to go along and tag along with a couple of other people. So seeing as there was 3 of us, I thought, you know, there's absolutely no reason that this would go anything else but smoothly. But no, I was very, very wrong. I think before we even jumped into the Leviathan, we must have hopped world about 5 or 6 times, as the servers were just really, really not very good that night. And when it came to the actual fight, I had a pretty bad time at the start. I'm pretty sure that I lagged at the moment that I needed to surge, and I just completely surged into its face. I got absolutely stacked out and signed on a boss that's really just a DPS dummy. Now, I wish I could say that this was the only time that I had any issues in the dungeon, but you'll see how it goes later on. Now, when it comes to Taraket, I understand the fight and I vaguely know what to do. Like, I know what to do in that fight as a group, but I genuinely don't think that I could solo it. And that literally comes down to just those 2 big adds. I'm just unsure what you're actually supposed to pray there, and I think I would not really be able to get them down in time before either I was killed or, you know, whatever else. You know, as long as somebody else is tanking those, then that fight is an absolute breeze to me, but, you know, I guess I could go for absolutely anything in the game. But yeah, if somebody wants to explain to me how you deal with those as a solo, then do let me know, because I actually do want to attempt to do this as a solo, because I have a hell of a lot of death touch darts that I want to be using on the Ambassador. And I don't really want to use the darts in a group, just because the drop rate is so much worse when you become a duo or a trio in there. But yeah, if somebody can explain that to me, then that would be super useful. So let's move on to the Ambassador, where stuff started to go pretty wrong again for me. So like I was saying, I'd not actually been here for a very long time, and I pretty much forgot this fight. So honestly, this fight up until the spinners wasn't actually too bad, but he ended up absorbing one of the spinners, and I pretty much forgot how to deal with that mechanic, and I just completely ate that attack straight into the face. I didn't die from it, but I ended up really panicking pretty bad, and I'm pretty sure I turned my prayer off, and yeah, it just was an absolute mess. And honestly, it didn't get any better from this point on for the rest of this kill. During the last phase, I literally could not find where to stand for the white smoke, and I was just clicking all over the place, and it was just a mess from there as well. And because I was so focused on the white smoke, I honestly didn't see the Ambassador call my name at all, and I forgot to even press devotion when I changed my prayer. So obviously I ended up getting stacked out and dying, but you know, it is what it is. It's just me completely forgetting the fight because I've not done it for so long. But after that we got the second attempt down, and pretty much the other runs after that were not too bad. I obviously still have a lot to learn with the whole PVM thing, but yeah, the rest of the kills went fairly smoothly considering. And I can't really complain, because on our last Ambassador kill I ended up getting an Onyx, which pretty much paid for that death earlier on anyway. Again, this is just another thing that I need to do more often so that I can get a bit more confident with the fights. So I'm not sure whether or not to try to do these solo, as that would sort of, I guess, maybe help me, you know, learn the fights a lot better and not having to rely on other people to do certain mechanics or whatever. But yeah, I don't know, maybe I'll attempt that for a future episode or something, but I will need like tips from you guys to sort of know what I'm doing. Alright, well, I think that is probably going to do it for today's video. Like I keep saying, any tips you guys have, chuck them in the comments, because I am pretty bad at the game. If you are new and you did enjoy the video, then please do subscribe. And as usual, like it if you like it, dislike it if you dislike it, and I'll catch you in the next one.